Young and the Restless. Victor fights to win Nikki back. 5 moves he must make. Young and the Restless excites as Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, and Nikki Newman's Melody Thomas Scott reconciliation story kicking off. But it's not going to be an easy road, especially because Victor really needs to make some big changes in how he treats Nikki and how he behaves inside their marriage. Young and the Restless. Victor's path to redemption. As Victor paces and waits at the hospital to see how his wife's doing, we've got him and Nikki still estranged. But ever since Victor found out about Nikki's terrifying health scare with this mass in her brain that could leave her permanently blind, guilt is eating away at him, as it should be. Already, Victor is stepping up for Nikki in an unbelievable way. He found her a top surgeon, and Victor flew the woman in on his jet so that she could operate on Nikki super fast, trying to save her eyesight. That was a good deed, and Victor has been steadfast. He's been staying up at the hospital even when the rest of the family has gone home to rest. I think Nikki will appreciate his efforts, but also she's not just going to roll over and take him back. All of her issues with Victor still exist. And the reason Nikki didn't want him knowing about her illness is that she didn't want Victor taking her back out of pity. And it might feel that way to her. But for Nikki to agree to reunite with Victor and put on those wedding rings that she gave back to him, I think he's going to need to make some big changes. So, we're going to talk about exactly what he's got to do to fix his marriage with Nikki. And be sure to stick around to the end because we're going to talk about Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, last because that's the most important thing. Young and the Restless. The first big issue, Matt Clark. So, the first thing Victor needs to do is get Matt Clark, Roger Howarth, off of the Newman Ranch property. I understand that Victor is trying to keep an eye on Matt to make sure he doesn't revert to his old evil ways because honestly, he might terrorize Nick Newman, Josh O'Morrow, Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, Noah Newman, Lucas Adams, and many others. Again, Matt is a criminal. He is a bad dude. And remember, Nikki tried to convince Victor to not keep Matt living on the family property. But Victor absolutely would not listen to her. And if you remember, Nikki said just the other day how awful it was that Victor kicked her off the ranch. Kicked her out of the home that he built for her. Yet Matt Clark is welcome there when Nikki is not. And it's all because Victor wants to use Matt to spy on Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn. It's just another vendetta. Another revenge game of the mustache. You know, Victor and his never-ending vendettas are a big problem for their marriage, period. And at this point, Matt doesn't seem like he's a danger, but nobody but Victor wants him on the ranch. Least of all Nikki. So, in the end, Victor needs to get Matt gone ASAP. YNR. Stop interfering in the kids' lives. The next thing he needs to do to prove himself to Nikki is we need to see Victor stop interfering in his kids' lives so much and so dastardly in the way he's doing it. The most recent stunt Victor pulled was conspiring with Audra Charles, Zuleika Silver, to seduce Kyle Abbott, Michael Mueller, to get him away from Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron. And that was just awful. Victor paid Audra basically to break Claire's heart, and Nikki enabled it. She excused it. She didn't want to believe it. But then she couldn't deny what Victor did on Young and the Restless. And of course, Claire forgave him way too fast, I thought. And of course, Victor has targeted Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, in horrible ways despite him being father to Victoria Newman's, Amelia Heinley kids. So, I think Nikki would love it if Victor just left the kids alone to live their lives. Young and the Restless. Stop committing crimes. The next thing is a big one. To get Nikki to see him in a new light, I think Victor needs to, stop committing crimes, especially ones that involve sexual assault. Apparently, Victor hasn't learned his lesson. Years ago, he kidnapped Jack, gave him to that crazy Kelly girl, replaced him with Marco Anicelli, and Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, married him. So, Marco essentially assaulted Phyllis for months. Back in the day, Victor hired someone to drug and rape Billy, and she wound up pregnant. And very recently, Victor paid Patty Williams, Stacey Hayduke, to kidnap and sexually assault Jack on that yacht. And Patty is still lurking and stalking Jack. Victor also used illegal AI to ransack Kane's company, Arabesque. And of course, karma got Victor on that one since Phyllis stole Newman Enterprises from him using the AI. But Nikki would be thrilled if Victor just stopped doing crime. He could, just act like a normal human person instead of a Greek tragedy looking for a place to happen. Young and the Restless. Hand over Newman Enterprises. Another thing I think would help Nikki embrace a reconciliation with Victor is if he handed Newman Enterprises over to the next generation and took a step back. He could give it to Nick, Victoria, and Adam Newman, Mark Grossman, to run together. Nikki's ticked that he gave Chancellor away. So maybe Victor needs to give up Newman, too. That way both Nikki and Victor will be effectively retired from business, and they can focus on each other. The stress and problems in Nikki and Victor's marriage over the years have come from fights about Newman Enterprises, within Newman Enterprises, about people trying to take it over, just infighting and scheming. So, why not just have Victor step back? Young and the Restless, the Jack Abbott problem. Last but not least, the big elephant in the room causing problems between Nikki and Victor and preventing this reconciliation. It's Jack Abbott. When Nikki asked Victor about reconciling, he said, "Sure thing, no problem. Just cut Jack completely out of your life." Victor is explosive where Jack is concerned, but Nikki considers Jack her best friend. He's been there for her through thick and thin. But this is no doubt the single most important thing that Victor could do to get Nikki to reconcile. Victor needs to stop going after Jack, stop targeting him, stop the endless and pointless vendetta. Victor can't seem to stop his suspicions about that night at the Genoa City Athletic Club. When Jack took those pills and nearly died trying to scare Nikki into going to rehab, he thinks they had sex. Eric Braeden said in a recent interview that Victor thinks that the night of debauchery included Jack and Nikki doing the deed. They didn't, but Victor's certain they did. But he's just got to let it go. Jack doesn't want to keep this rivalry alive, but at this point it's understandable why he hates Victor. He brought Patty back into their lives, and first she kidnapped Jack. Now, she's kidnapped Diane Jenkins, Susan Walters, and is moving in on Jack being a really creepy predator. YNR. Victor's grand gesture must be about Jack. So, if Victor is going to make a grand gesture to impress Nikki and get her to take him back, it's got to be about Jack. Not a fancy ring, not a blingy diamond necklace. Victor needs to stop Patty, run her out of town with a threat to never come back. And he needs to save Diane, save Jack. And then Victor needs to extend his hand to Jack and thank him for saving Nikki's life that night and tell him that he wants to bury the hatchet once and for all. No tricks, no vendetta, no more revenge. Just it's over. I think he can tell Jack, let's make peace. Because Victor has to know that that will mean so much to Nikki. Honestly, more than anything else he can do. And I think that's going to be the linchpin into whether or not she agrees to reconcile with him, is if he can let all this stuff with Jack go.